Last time, before I connected the pre-charger and wired up the contactors, oh, wait, there was no last time. I'm not a prolific YouTuber like SuperfastMatt. In fact, I have no social media presence whatsoever, and I'm really surprised that you even found this video. But I found myself inspired by SuperfastMatt and his Tesla-powered 1950 Jaguar Mark V. So here's my first attempt at YouTubing, with special thanks to Matt.
If you haven't already, you really should subscribe to his channel. No, not mine. I don't even have a channel. Go find his channel. His videos are really good. Hopefully, I figured out how to put a link to his channel in the description. Despite living within spitting distance of each other and having many similar interests, I've never met Matt. I mean, why would I? He's a famous social influencer, and I'm, well, not as talented, funny, or famous. But I like everything about Matt's content. It's interesting, informative, concise, and funny. It's everything most videos aren't. In fact, the only problem I have with SuperfastMatt's channel is the name. To my ear, calling yourself Superfast is pretty presumptuous. Who's the sanctioning body that dubbed you Superfast? Where's your Superfast ID card? How fast is super anyway? That's a moniker that you have to back up with some creds. More on that later. Back to ruining old cars with electrification. I may be new to the YouTube, but I actually started my own Tesla vintage car electrification project more than 2 years ago. I'm not sure if that's a humble brag or if I should be embarrassed that Matt got his car running in less than half a year while I've been slaving away for over 2 years now. Probably embarrassed. In my defense, I had a lot of rust to fix, and I have a real job. Does SuperfastMatt have a real job, or does he just sit around and rake in YouTube mailbox money? I don't know. My car is a 1973 BMW 3.0 CS, an E9 coupe to those in the BMW know. It started off life as a bical blue, carbureted, automatic trans, sunroof, US model, blue plate, California car. Despite having lived its entire life in California, it had rust in the usual places. It was a nice 15-footer when I bought it, but the automatic didn't kick down and it needed valve seals, and well, no one leaves the drivetrain alone on these cars. They all eventually get a 5-speed and a 3.5-liter injected M30 motor from a 535i or some such. So don't whine at me about how I'm ruining my car by installing a Tesla drivetrain. Watch Matt's video about ruining his Jag. He explains it well. My car isn't a rare CSL or even a CSI. It was a slush box, extended bumpered, side marker lit, average coupe. And it's mine, so I'll ruin it if I want. You could have bought it off eBay and preserved its heritage, but you didn't. My admiration for Matt's approach to his Jag is high. He's an actual mechanical engineer who's worked in the auto industry. He figured out how to take the outhouse directly from a Model 3 and use it largely unmodified. His Jag was also wide enough to house the rear track of the Model 3 subframe in its entirety, and his body-on-frame construction allowed him to fit the batteries beneath the body. Nice job. I'm not so lucky, or smart, or whatever. My car is smaller and has a unibody, and I started back before wrecked Model 3s were common or anyone had figured out how to work with them. So I bought a drive unit and batteries from a wrecked Model S and took the standard approach for a century or so, raising the motor up slowly and cutting and welding until it all fit. Unlike Matt, my CAD was not computer-aided but more cardboard-aided. Instead of drawing parts up on a computer and then having them fabricated by advanced laser or send cut send, I used a plasma cutter, an angle grinder, and a welder. But in the end, the result's the same: a Tesla drive unit in an old car. The only thing left to do was to somehow get that Tesla motor connected up to the BMW's wheels with custom half shafts with Tesla inners and BMW outers. I didn't have to re-engineer my front or rear suspension, and I was able to keep my original brakes. But I did have to figure out a way to keep the car from rolling when in park. Matt got that for free when he used the Tesla rear brakes with the electric parking calipers. I ripped out the original parking brake handle and replaced it with a linear actuator that electronically pulls on the original parking brake cables. That's controlled by my shifter, which needed to be modified so that the linear motion of the linkage tickles some switches to tell everything else what to do, such as selecting drive, reverse, or neutral, or pulling or releasing the parking brake. It's a bit fancier than Matt's push buttons under the dash, but the end result's the same. With any EV conversion, the hardest part is figuring out where to put the batteries. Each Model S battery has 400 and some odd cells, weighs 55 pounds, and is about the size of a large board game. I need at least 14 of them to get enough voltage to make the Tesla motor work. That also gives me about 200 miles of range. Matt had the guts to just rip the X-member out of his Jag frame and fit the batteries in its place, but the unibody of the BMW didn't allow for that. Instead, I designed and fabricated a box with rails and locks to hold 10 batteries, and that box is lowered into the engine compartment where the smelly old gas motor used to live. Unlike Matt's Jag, my BMW had disc brakes and power steering, so I just needed to change to an electric pump from a Mini Cooper in order to get my power steering back. Instead of a big, tall, old-school radiator up in the front, my BMW has two small radiators, one used for battery cooling and the other to cool the motor, inverter, onboard charger, and DC-DC converter. Unfortunately, that left no room for a brake booster, at least not a traditional one. Plus, I didn't have any vacuum. So, like Matt, I picked up a Tesla iBooster. Watch his video for more information on iBoosters. The remaining 4 batteries got mounted in the trunk, along with a whole lot of aftermarket stuff that Matt didn't need, such as a DC-DC converter, onboard charger, battery management system, contactors, pre-charge controller, drive unit controller, etc., that I had to assemble myself instead of just using already proven Tesla stuff that Matt got in his outhouse. Matt made vague mention of replacing his gauge guts with stepper motors and an Arduino someday. I've already done that. I also wrote an application for the Raspberry Pi to display all sorts of data on a round display where the tach used to be, as well as on a touchscreen to allow configuration of various settings such as cruise control, valet mode, traction control, etc. So I'm a little bit ahead of Matt on instrumentation. But gauges, air conditioning, heating, and other non-critical items have been distracting me from actually getting the car running. I saw Matt's first drive video, and it really inspired me to stop navel gazing and get my project running too. The first drive is really pretty damn exciting.
All right. On. Got our flash screen. Got our power steering pump. I can hear it. We're in park. Drive. Parking brake off. Off the brake. We got a little creep. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
This is a great feeling.
Oh my gosh.
Thanks to Matt's inspiration, we're both driving now. But Matt's Jag has doors, brake lights, glass, a trunk, and he's driven it to the Peterson. I've only driven mine around the parking lot. It'll be a long time before I finish the restoration of my car, yet I still feel a kinship. We are the modern hot rodders. Speaking of hot rodders, back to that self-appointed Superfast title. It isn't entirely clear what Matt is super fast at. Maybe it's scraping crap off the floor of old cars, or maybe his romantic partner gave him that nickname, or maybe he's just super fast at making bad fashion choices. Who knows? But given that his avatar is wearing a helmet, I'm going to guess that it has something to do with driving. And driving prowess needs to be proven. I think I'm pretty fast. Is Matt faster than me? We could pit each of our EV conversions against each other in a drag race, but drag racing is dumb and would really only compare the cars, not our driving skill. For any fair evaluation of driving skill, you need similar vehicles. I've seen Matt Autocross's S600, but I don't have a motorcycle-powered old Japanese sports car, and I doubt that Matt wants me thrashing his. What I do have is access to a few shifter karts. They're fast, and I'm willing to let Matt thrash them. So, Matt, I hereby challenge you to a go-kart race, either wheel-to-wheel or against the clock. Cal Speed in Fontana or Adams in Riverside, all you have to do is show up with your helmet. I'll supply the karts, the tires, and the fuel. Then we can see who's really super fast. It used to be you have to impress people to get people to watch your show. Now you just need to impress the algorithm. So do me a favor and subscribe to SuperfastMatt's channel. All hail the algorithm and SuperfastMatt.